Hello guys, it is September 4th, 2019. I'm going to show you guys how I actually season. I've been trying to do this video a number of times and had problems with the editing software, so we will give it another go. If you are watching this, I was successful. Anyway, here we go. The oven just went off. I had it set at 200 degrees. Put my skillets in right in the beginning, set it for 19 minutes because it takes about 3 or 4 minutes for it to heat up to 200. Somewhere in there. Just want to make sure it gets a full 15 minutes so the skillets can absorb the heat, with the oven, so I can just go ahead and spread on my seasoning. I'm going to be using Crisco, and I'm going to be spreading on a thin layer of seasoning and wiping it back off again. And I use these shop vac towels that are folded over a couple of times. They make it through a seasoning. This one's already started to use this one, so I may have to do some more. They come in rolls, or you can get multiple packs, and I like the ones at Walmart the best. They are the Scotch towels, shop towels, and the ones at Home Depot have a little bit too much lint for my liking, so I like the ones at Walmart. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get this skillet out, and we're going to start seasoning these guys. Okay, this one here is that Wagnerware that had all kinds of rust and crud on it. And since I'm using the polka dotted silicone, I'm going to go ahead and turn that timer off. There we go, that's better. And we're going to go ahead and put a coat of seasoning on the inside of the skillet. And we're just going to do it like this. I'm going to get all the side walls. You can see that there. And the top, the whole thing. Just make sure you get it all covered. You can do it pretty liberally because we're going to wipe it all back off again. This, I think, is a third or fourth coat in this skillet. The intention was to flip this online, but I had so much trouble with it. As far as rust goes, there's a lot of hidden rust. Now we're wiping it all back off. You got to wipe it all back off because all you need is a thin layer of seasoning inside. I have a feeling, though, if this seasoning holds, this is going to be a fantastic cooker for somebody. I just don't need a bunch of them. Okay, I'm going to flip it over, and we're going to do the other side. And go ahead and put a liberal coat on there. After we coat all of these, we are going to push the oven up to 300 degrees. And I'm going to set the timer for 18 minutes. We're going to allow the oven 3 minutes to heat from 200 to 300. And it progressively gets warmer in the oven. We're going to pull it out after 15 minutes because it's going to give us a chance to wipe down any seasoning that moved around during this process and is not coating evenly. And you want to make sure you have a really nice, even coat of seasoning on the skillet. We're going to wipe it all back off now. The whole thing. There we go. Now we're going to go ahead and put it back in the oven, and we are going to do the same thing with 2 other skillets. And I'll just let you see this part sped up. Now I'm seasoning the one with the crack. So if you're watching, this one has a very small crack. You can hardly see it along the sidewall here. I will attempt to show it after the video's over with. Somebody had said they wanted it for their man cave. So we're going to go ahead and give this a third coat, just because we're doing the others. It's no big deal. And they're in the oven now, starting to bake on the seasoning. This is a BS&R, Birmingham Stove and Range, number 7. Other than the crack, it's just a simply gorgeous skillet. It would have been perfect. Number 7s are not as common. They are, you don't see them very often. I mean, you see them, but they're not as common as a 3 or a 5. I'm going to have to fold this thing again in the middle. I'm just adjusting the folds on it. Okay, so we have about 3 or 4 sides that we can use. I'm going to wipe it all off again. But this one, was going to go to somebody because they wanted it for maybe it wasn't a man cave, maybe they had a restaurant and they wanted it for display. I can't remember. So if you're watching, this skillet is almost done. It's beautiful. You could probably actually use it to cook with the crack as long as you are careful. It's not on the bottom. It's not along the handle. It's like over here, away from the pour spout. It's away from the handle. It's not on the bottom. So if you're going to have a crack, that's where you want it, in a place that's not going to affect the structure of the skillet. This one I was really disappointed because these could be worth quite a bit of money in this condition online. Look at that. It's just gorgeous. We're going to wipe that all off. But as you use skillets, they will become shiny and black over time. And when they're stripped like the way I strip skillets, they have a tendency to look more chocolatey brown. Now this one is starting to look black. I think this might be the third coat. I don't know. I just kind of can do 3 or 4 coats, sometimes 5. When I season cast iron, I do it until I like it. I like the look. So I'm just wiping it all back off. And we're going to do this again at 300 degrees. We're going to take it back out. And we're not going to put any more on, but we're going to wipe off any that pooled in an area that we didn't want it to go, because that sometimes can happen. So all you need is a thin coat, because it will seep down in between the molecules of the top layer of iron. That's what forms your nonstick surface. Okay, we're going to put it back in the oven, face down. And we're going to turn it up to 300 degrees. Put it over here so you can see. And I'm going to actually turn it off. I'm going to turn it on. It defaults to 300 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and see if you can see it. Okay, there's 300 degrees. We're going to put the timer on. If you can see that. And we're going to put the timer on to 18 minutes. I always like to make sure it gets that full. There we go. And I will be back to wipe them off one more time at 300, after 300 degrees, and then we're going to go ahead with our final step. Be back. Okay guys, timer's gone off, so we need to turn the timer off. And we need to wipe off the undesirable seasoning. So we're going to go ahead and start with the first skillet. And I'm just going to let you see how I do this. I'll speed it up. Okay guys, those are back in the oven. We're going to turn our oven back up again. We're going to turn it off, turn it back on, and we're going to set it up to 450 degrees for an hour. You can see that there. It was set at 450. We're going to put the timer on. Let's see if I can get in there a little closer so you can see it. We're going to put the timer in there for an hour and 5 minutes. That gives the oven another 5 minutes to heat up from 300 to 450 degrees. Just goes in increments of 5 minutes. Here we go. So we got the timer going, and we're going to bake it in the oven for 450 degrees for an hour. And it's going to really, that's what gives us its nice, thick, slick, shiny surface, ultimately. But we're also going to need to turn on our vent in a few minutes. When it starts to smoke, it's going to smoke on, and that's what we want. So I'm going to leave it bake, and I will be back. When I'm going to pull them out, when the oven goes off, we're going to let the skillets cool for maybe half an hour, because I don't want to take them out when they're too hot to handle. But I take them out after about 30 minutes, because believe it or not, there could be also some seasoning that might have rolled to another part of the skillet that I can actually smooth out. Didn't know that till I tried it, but that's just the perfect way to season, in my opinion, after doing this now for over 2 years and a number of skillets. So I will be back, and I will show you that, pulling them out of the oven and smoothing them out if need be, and what they look like at the end. Be back. Okay guys, I am back. The seasoning is now done. The timer is, turn the timer off. And I set it for 30 minutes after an hour at 450 degrees, because the skillets, you can now deal with the skillets. I'm going to remove the first one. And here's the Wagner ware, number 8, which is like a 10-inch skillet. Actually, there's not a whole lot of, just a little bit here on the bottom of the pan. But believe it or not, you know, you may have a little bit of flow, but that's what it looks like. Bring it around to show you. Go ahead and flip it over. And I'm going to go ahead and put it back in the oven so it can continue cooling down. Because anytime you're dealing with cast iron, folks, you want to make sure that everything is gradual when it comes to heat. And we'll go ahead and take the other one out. This is the one that I was going to keep to cook with. Got this at a, oops. Okay, I'm back again. And the seasoning on this one had, you know, pulled in a couple of places, even though baked at 450 degrees. So I'm just wiping it down real good. It's really hot though, so you have to be mindful of that. We're going to go ahead and flip it over on the back. This wasn't one I was planning on selling. I may eventually sell it as I find more and better cast iron. This is an unmarked Wagner. So I'm going to go ahead and switch the knit to the other side on my other hand. I'm going to put that back in the oven. It'll gradually cool down. And the final one is the Birmingham Stove and Range. And this one was the one with a crack. Unfortunately, it's a beautiful pan. There's not a whole lot that actually pulled on this one. I mean, you don't know. Sometimes it does. I'm just going to go ahead and, you actually know, there's not a whole lot there. And this is kind of what it looks like. Gorgeous piece of cast iron. So you know who you are that wants this for either you said a restaurant or a man cave. I can't remember which. You wanted it for display. So if anybody wants this one for display, I'm going to go ahead and set this down again. I'm actually trying to turn it over so you can see the other side. Gorgeous. You could probably actually cook with it. You can cook with a minor crack. The crack, see if I can find it. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's nowhere close to the handle. It's right there. Very minor, and it's more prevalent on the outside than the inside, but it's right there. And you just have to be careful. No sudden heat changes or anything like that. But the whole idea, this would be a nice display piece. So yeah, but that's what 3 coats or 3 to 4 coats of seasoning look like. 1 hour at the top degree. It dries it out really good. Chances are you're not going to have to wipe any more off, but there's a possibility you can. And that's it. So anyway, guys, I'm going to put it back in the oven. I do want to thank you guys for watching. Please leave a comment or question below. Please give a thumb up so videos like this can be recommended for other people that like to watch them. And thanks for watching again, and go make it a great day.